All right, so I was gonna talk about yeah, I guess I will talk about okay, uh the sons of Zadok. So we're gonna talk about the sons of Zadok and learn a little bit about. So let's see if they have this name here. Okay, so because I know sometimes they'll spell it with a S. Okay, so let's read a little bit about Zadok, righteous, okay, or justified. Okay, Zadok is also, it's probably a derivative of Zadik, okay, Zadik. So we know in, so in Psalm 119, the Zadi is righteous art thou, O Lord, upright are thy judgments, thy testimonies that thou hast commanded are righteous and very faithful. My zeal had consumed me, because my enemies have forgotten thy words. Now see, thy zeal had consumed me. Okay, so the man who remained loyal. Zadok was also an appointed priest by Solomon in the place of Abiathar because of his own loyalty. Okay, so you have a few things that talk about. So let's go a little bit into what the Jews say about him. So he was a priest in the time of King David. Zadok established a high priestly dynasty which continued until approximately 171 BCE, both in the first and second temple periods. He first appears together with Abiathar as the priest in charge of the ark at the time of Absalom's revolt. So he and Abiathar joined David in his flight from Jerusalem, carrying the ark with them, but the king ordered them to return to the capital to inform him of events in Absalom's court. So there they had the freedom of movement and were able to deliver messages to David about the rebels' intrigues. Okay. After Absalom's death, Zadok and Abiathar acted according to a message sent to them by David, requesting them to suggest that the king should be called back. They are mentioned next to each other in both lists of David's chief officials, where Zadok always mentioned before Abiathar. Now these were, I guess, the ones in charge of the door. Okay. When Adonijah plotted to usurp the throne, Zadok remained faithful to David, while Abiathar joined the usurper. When David became aware of the plot, he instructed Zadok and Nathan the prophet to anoint Solomon king. For his loyal service in anointing Solomon, Zadok was made chief priest. Okay, so this whole question of Zadok's origin, it's saying here, is unknown, mysterious. So there is no clear and accurate picture of his background in the Bible and the narrative where it appears from nowhere. In 2 Samuel 8:17, he's called the son of Ahitub. Seems to be connected with the house of Eli. So you ask yourself this question. So no genealogies anywhere. Just sprung up out of nowhere. So they're trying to say Zadok as a descendant of an Aaronide house of Eleazar. So the reason why I'm going to talk about Zadok is because of Melchizedek. Michael Zadok. Okay. So everybody wants to know, oh, well, who is Melchizedek? Well, didn't he have no genealogy? And this is exactly what Christ said in the Gospel of Thomas. When you see one not born of mother or father, that is the one. So the times you do hear about Zadok is in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So Zadok was the priest of Gibeon, where the tabernacle stood, while Abiathar served before the ark at Jerusalem. The hypothesis is based on 1 Chronicles 16:37, where the two are mentioned as principal sanctuaries in David's time. In support of this theory, it is pointed out that after the exile of Abiathar, only Zadok was made the sole chief priest. See, so, was a chief priest, was a high priest, right? Since Zadok's name does not appear until after the capture of Jerusalem, and since his genealogy is not given, he may have been a priest of a Jebusite Jerusalem before the conquest by David. Okay, according to this theory, David permitted him to retain his priestly function in order to help reconcile the old inhabitants to their old master. It's safer to admit that Zadok's origin is unknown. It can be assumed that he was indeed of a Levitical origin, though not from the same branch as the house of Eli. And so I'm just gonna tell you this. So when you see names like this with two A's in there, like that, it is my opinion. I don't know this, okay, but it's saying Ahimaaz was undoubtedly Zadok's son, but Azariah was another son of Zadok, not his grandson. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you this right now. So whenever you see these two A's like this, it reminds me of the Grail, the Holy Grail. Um, so Junior Bartlett, on the other hand, doubts that the high priests of Jerusalem were directly descended from Zadok. He claims they were rather appointed in each case by the kings on the basis of merit. According to this view, the term House of Zadok was fixed only in Josiah's time in order to distinguish between the Jerusalemite priests and the priests of the high places. The fortune of the house of Zadok after the exile were reflected in the position given to them in the books of Ezekiel and Chronicles. In Ezekiel 40, the exiled Zadokites expect a reward for their faithfulness, that they alone should perform the priestly functions in the new temple. The rest of the Levites, so there you see right there, this house is a house for the end times. These priests are this house of Zadok. So it could be an important function today, you know. So in the Second Temple period, the house of Zadok retained the high priesthood continuously until the Hasmonean revolt. The book of Nehemiah, there is a list of high priests from Jeshua to Jaddua down to the time of Darius II. So this list may be incomplete, and it presumes that succession always passed from father to son. Yet it does not collect the information given in Nehemiah. The name before the last, Johanan, is found in the Elephantine papyri in the name of the high priest in 411. Okay, and again in 408 BCE. There's no information about a following century and a half. So Josephus in the book of Maccabees make it possible to trace the line from Onias to the middle of the 3rd century BCE to Simeon the Just into Onias the Third, who held the office of high priest when Antiochus Epiphanes succeeded his throne in 175. His son Onias the Fourth, I believe, was too young to succeed, which Jason the second Maccabees, okay, and Menelaus, though not a priest, were successively appointed by bribing the Seleucid ruler to appoint them. After the death of Alchemist in 159 BCE, the office remained vacant for 7 years. So Jonathan was nominated by a high priest by Alexander Ballas. Okay, so here's where they're going to say this at. So Simeon, Jonathan's successor, was the high priest who had irrevocably transferred from the Zadokites to the Hasmoneans. This seems to have given the appropriate occasion for the crystallization of the Dead Sea sect. Okay? Example, the cross. The sect probably originated with a group of priests deeply disturbed by prevalent trends, especially in the high priesthood. The Hasmoneans were considered usurpers, and the sect maintained the exclusive right of the Zadokites to fill the high priestly office. Okay, meanwhile, Onias had been conveyed by or had gone with a number of those who remained loyal to his father's memory to Egypt, where he obtained permission, 154 BCE, from the Egyptian king to rebuild a disused temple at Leontopolis. I never heard it said the way it's put there, but this is Heliopolis. I mean, the city of On, the city of the sun. Okay, so it really doesn't say much more about that. Okay, so we'll look here what Wikipedia has to say about it, but so the sons of Zadok are mentioned 3 times in the Bible as part of the third temple prophecy in the final chapters of the book of Ezekiel. Okay, so they're saying here that Torah commentators record that Phinehas sinned due not to his availing servitude of Torah instruction to the masses at the time leading up to the battle of Gibeah. In addition, he failed to address the needs of relieving Jephthah of his vow. The high priest was taken to him and given to the offspring of Ithamar, essentially Eli. Upon the sin of Eli's son, Hophni and Phinehas, Elkanah prophesied the return of the high priesthood to the sons of Eleazar. Okay, so it says here, I will erect myself a reliable priest who acts with my heart and with my soul. He will do, and I will build him a reliable household, and you will go before my anointed all of days. Okay, so the prophecy of Elkanah ultimately happened in the era of King David when Zadok from the progeny of Eleazar was appointed as high priest. The Metzudoth and Obadiah ben Jacob, it's Forno, it almost sounds like Sneferu. So the service of Zadok was in line with the will of God, even at times when the actions of the general nation was not. So, three times the Hebrew Bible mentions the sons of Zadok in the third temple occur in the book of Ezekiel as a Kohen, being from the descendants of Ithamar and not Eleazar or Zadok and sons. Okay, so this is getting a little mixed up. Okay, so these sons of Zadok, they did not submit to the golden calf worship. Okay, so you see here categorization of the sons of Zadok as quasi high priests is not purported to discount the notion of one of the sons of Zadok being singled out as a role as full high priest. Such, there is rabbinical documentary that described the future high priest from the sons of Zadok as having certain priorities, or at least being equal to the future Jewish Messiah king. Okay, so you guys can take a look at it. It is my theory that um, that the King of Peace, Prince of Peace, comes from the house of Zadok. Okay, and I'll just leave it right there.